How long did you spend on the beach today, Bella?
I went for like 2 hours. It's a gorgeous day. I saw Brian was in the sun, so I said, "I gotta be in the sun." UV was a bit low, but we're okay.
That's all right.
You know how you avoid low UV?
How?
Just don't even think about it. It doesn't. You don't have to worry about it. You just go outside.
Just go.
Sun is
Yeah.
good for you. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah, that's my routine. I don't put sunblock on, but I think as I'm getting older, I need to. Well, welcome, Bella. Sorry we had to
guys.
do this without you last week.
I know.
That's all right.
Photo shoots. It's
Freaking
okay.
traffic.
It's
Photo shoots in
it's fun.
traffic. Got it.
Very
Yeah.
very high demand. This woman these days. We only get her for an hour this week, and with the rates for 1 hour with Bella are going up.
Every fucking
They're not
day.
going up. They're the same. They're the same. The rates are the same, I promise.
Oh, that's funny. But let's get right into it then. Let's start. So we're going to talk about 24.3 and then talk about the leaderboard. And let's start off with the women. Let's see.
The good or the bad?
What? The good or the bad?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I know we have a lot to talk about with that.
Let's talk about the good. Let's just start right off the top. Gracie Walton, Bella.
Okay.
Since you're wearing the shirt, is Grace on that shirt?
No, she's not, but she should be. She should be right at the freaking top. Can I just say, for the last 3 years, I've been calling Grace Walton.
Okay.
For the last 3 years, every time I come back from Australia, I'm like, guys, Grace Walton, and everybody says, yeah, she'll get there. Justin Kotler is like, he's always on it. And he's always saying, yeah, you're right.
Let me ask you this question.
But as her coach, tell me.
If Tia Toomey, Ellie Turner, Jamie Simmons, Cara Saunders, if any three of those 4 women were competing in Oceania this year, would Grace Walton make the games?
Yes.
Damn.
I think that's a no-brainer to me. Yes.
I think.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I don't even think it's a guarantee she makes the games without the 4 of them there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Come on down to Brisbane. Come on, let's go. It'll be fun.
No. I want to go there. I want to go there. And obviously, we should be celebrating and highlighting what Grace did these last 3 weeks because it's very impressive. It's very difficult to win the Open. She's only the 9th woman ever to win it. But it's the best thing that she's done so far. And, there's just something to be said. All of those women that you just said that she would beat 1 or 2 of them. It's been a long time since any of them have failed to qualify for the games when they've tried to qualify for the games as an individual in Oceania.
I disagree, Brian. It's the second best thing she's done.
What's the first best thing she's done?
Dating Zayn.
Oh, he's a wonderful character. He's great too.
I love Zayn.
Yeah, Zayn.
So that's the second thing.
They're fun. I'm sure Zayn will love that.
Yeah.
No, they're fun for sure. Well, I think Grace is young, and she might not have like history on her side because she's 23 and she hasn't been competing that long. Yeah, this might be the best thing she's ever done, but I don't think it's going to be the best thing she'll ever do. And watching her compete for the last 3 years, this is the Grace that I believe in.
Well, and actually she does have history on her side massively. There's never been a person who's won the Open and failed to qualify for the CrossFit Games. So
there you go.
With history on her side, your statement will probably come true.
I love that. See, I'm excited for her. I'm so stoked. I put this on. She's not even on it, but it's Australia. So.
But that is if I'm reading it correctly, that's DUC 23. That is like
this
a few months ago.
December.
And this is a person who's from Australia, who everyone in Australia knows, who competed at that competition. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
As
and
an
she
individual.
didn't, and whoever made that shirt did not choose to put her on the shirt. How many people are on that shirt? There's like at least a dozen people,
got
right?
Emily Luke. It's mostly Americans, to be honest. Emily Lukeman, Noah, Chandler, Danny, and then we've got Jesse, Jake Douglas, Sarah, Danny, Jay, Maddie, Ricky. So it's a blend. But I think she's one of those people that's still making the name for herself. So making this shirt, no shade to her. She deserves her own shirt. She deserves a little frog grips shirt with a little crown on it. We're not going to take it from Jay, but we'll borrow it from Jay, and she can be the queen this year. I'm cool with it. I like it.
Just, but it's it's interesting that they chose to put all the superstars from that competition on that shirt. They didn't choose to put her on it, and 3-4 months later, she's winning the Open worldwide.
Also, could be it's not her apparel sponsor, so could be that.
Yeah. Oh. The Outback Queen. Well, let's move on from the Outback Queen. I don't know if we could say too much about her. I mean, I know Justin Kotler and Kiefer is her coach, but they've been hyping her praises. And Bella has been saying it for the last 3 years. I've been saying it the last couple of years. I know Brian, you kind of take that wait and see approach, but we wait and see. Again, it's quite an accomplishment. One of how many women? 8 women.
She's the 9th, and I mean, I think it's worth reading off the names. Like, this is an elite group to be a part of. Sarah Signesdottir's won it 3 times. Annie Thorsdottir, Sam Briggs, and Mal O'Brien have each won it twice. And Grace becomes the 5th woman to win it 1 time, joining Tia Claire Toomey, Cassie Lance McWhorter, Jamie Green, and Kristen Clever, who you see there on the right side of the screen. And just for the sake of it, we can look at the left side and see the men. There's actually less men who've won it. All of them equal in note. Matt Fraser 4 times, Rich Froning 3 times, Jeff Adler twice, Saxon Panchik, Patrick Vellner, Noah Olson, Dan Bailey, each once. And we'll get to him later, but Yona Koski will join that list. It's a really crazy thing to win the Worldwide Open. And obviously a tremendous accomplishment for young woman Grace Walton.
You know what Gracie also does by winning the Open?
Oh, wait, I just have to ask this.
Yes.
What does she prefer to be called as her first name?
Gracie.
Okay. Because I'm just programmed this way. If I see it on the leaderboard, that's your name.
Yeah.
Like, that's like how I am. And I know that that's not how everyone prefers it, right? You might see William Leahy IV, but he wants to be called Bill. But it says Grace Walton there. So if I say Grace, that's just because that's what I'm seeing.
Have you met Grace yet? Have you met her yet?
Yes.
Well, you could call her Grace if you want. She could also just be, queen of Oceania now. She could
Outback
be
Queen. I'm trying to make it.
She could be. She's from Perth, I think. So she fittest in Perth. That's kind of got a cool ring to it. Good for her.
Yeah. But what I was saying, what Gracie does by winning that, it puts Oceania in a deadlock with Europe and the North America for the most women's Open winners with 3.
And now you're making me count this. I hadn't even thought about that.
That's a good.
So
good
1,
stat
2,
pad.
3.
Barkley, suck it.
3 and 3.
Yeah, 3 and 3.
Okay.
So so it's an extra. That's more impressive, I guess we'll say.
Yeah. So, and again, it's some great company that she's in, and we'll talk about the men's side. But this is the first time on the men's side. I sent this to you, Brian, that someone from North America did not win the Open.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. Obviously, a couple Canadians, and then the rest from the United States, but all from North America up until this year. So very, very cool. Couple of very cool accomplishments.
Yeah, in the first year, obviously because of those, Grace and Yona winning, it's the first time that North America wasn't represented as an Open winner either on the men and women's side. So
I kind of like that. I feel like that's a great stat to show global growth, to be honest.
Exactly. So despite what people may say about the Open, I think it's a great thing, whether it counts or not. But for someone like Koski, or someone like Gracie, it obviously does count. And winning the Open
counts for $15,000 too. It's,
exactly. That paid
pretty good payday.
That's nice.
3 work.
They got to pay some taxes on that. I mean, I know it's expensive in Australia, but wait, Barkley, it's not live. It's not fair. Sorry, Barkley. But let's go back to the leaderboard. And again, great job by Gracie. Big things to come. We've been having our eye on her a lot this year. I know she's kind of the hot pick going around as an up and comer by just about every analyst this year. But the name that kind of sticks out to me is Mirjam. I've been kind of talking about her. She's a high rocks athlete, an endurance athlete, and we kind of expect that in workout 1, but then she comes around And is she for real, Brian?
I don't know. I honestly don't even know what her intentions are when it comes to CrossFit and how seriously she's trying to pursue, making a semifinal over the next couple of weeks. We're going to start talking about how difficult that task is. Not all over the world. In some places it's easier than it's ever been, but in the most competitive regions, North America, East, West, and Europe, which she's in the European region, obviously, it's a tall task. I've actually been sorting through the remaining men and women in European field for a show we're going to do next week. And I mean, it's really difficult. However, when you look at her performance in the Open, I believe actually there were 3 people this year in the Open that had a first and a second place finish across the 2 workouts. The other 2 were guys, I think Colton Mertens and Jonakoski. But, I was looking at some of the stats specifically in Europe from semifinals last year. And you take a guy like Victor Hofer, like he had some terrible finishes, but he had like a first, a third, and a fifth. And he was 10 points out of making the games. If she's an athlete like that has the capacity to, even against the best fields, the Open with everyone in it, have these top 5 finishes on multiple events over the course of a semifinal, if she's good enough to get there, she can hang around. Like that's the recipe for an athlete that can hang around and potentially surprise.
Yeah.
And we don't know. I mean, again, the 24.3 hasn't been finalized yet. So who knows? She might end up having 2 first places. So, which would be quite an achievement. Justine said, do we know anything about her? I've done some research. Usually when it comes to obscure European athletes, I'm usually on it or trying to find out more. Again, she's a high rocks athlete. So she does have endurance, but you wouldn't think just because she does high rocks that she's a runner. She actually, from what I've heard, she doesn't actually even like the running part. It's all the other stuff that she really excels at, whether it be the machines and specifically the sled push and some of the other movements, the wall balls. She does. If you look at her YouTube channel, I think I pulled it up last time where she did 63 back squats at 100 kilos unbroken. So she has that capacity. And she has that leg strength. And just looking at her pictures, she looks like a very quad and leg dominated type of athlete.
Well, and you think about this last workout, and I mean, even elite athletes were like, my quads were just blown up because you're just ripping through these thrusters. If you're a female and you have a capacity to do over 60 squats at over twice the weight that this was at, the squatting part of the thrusters is just not even thinking about it for her. And when I saw her in whatever place she was in, top 3, 4, whatever, coming into this week, I was like, okay, this is going to be the test this final week where we're going to learn the most about her, because this is a workout where even if everything is just perfect for you, you're a great squatter, good presser, good upper body gymnastics, and you think that you have to have a tremendous amount of fitness and the capacity to suffer in order to have a score that good. It is currently still the second best score that we've seen on the women's side of things, and right up there with many of the, a few men were even able to have a time like this. You're talking about one of the best in the world. That's the type of kind of thing that does get my attention for a young athlete.
I completely agree. I mean, 8:35 for that workout is insane. I was watching some of the fittest people that I know and that we all know finish this workout, and they were happy to be sub 10. And for this woman that we don't really know to put up a time 8:35, like that says, hey, look at me. We'll see, obviously she's very fit. Newcomers, when they make a splash like this, they're going to have a lot of eyes on them going into quarterfinals, and eyes can be a good thing. Eyes can be a bad thing. Getting recognized by CrossFit could be a very good thing. So we'll see what else she's capable of doing. I mean, good for her.
I can think there are a few kind of just like litmus tests for elite athletes in this sport. I've talked about it a lot in the past couple of years, but like this 4 to 8 minute time domain, if you're elite in that time domain, it pays off a lot over time. And upper body pulling gymnastics with barbell cycling, if you're good at this combination of things, whether it's snatching and chest bar pull-ups, quick clean and jerks with some rope climbs, any kind of thing like this, thrusters and muscle ups, whatever, that combination, if you want to be elite at this sport, you've got to be good at that combination of barbell cycling, upper body pulling gymnastics.
I can think of 10,000 reasons why she might stick around with CrossFit. Just saying.
10,000?
Yeah. That's what you get for finishing second in the Open. So if that would be more than she's ever won at High Rocks, and it'll be obviously they don't pay anything for IF3, which she's finished on the podium. So I'm really interested to see what she does in the quarterfinals. Obviously, we'll talk about the quarterfinals. You're going to see more high level gymnastics. You're going to see more capacity work. You might even see some strength in there as well. So it'll be very interested to see how she does, especially if it's something like handstand push-ups or ring muscle ups or anything along that those skills or modalities. So but I think she's legit, and I'm actually here for it. I like it, especially she's from Switzerland, and we have two, and we'll talk about on the men's side, two like up and coming athletes from Switzerland, both on the women and men's side. I mean, of course, I'm talking about Colin Bossard. So who knows? Switzerland might be the new hotbed for CrossFit athletes.
Could be the new Iceland.
It could be. Norway might have something to say with that. We'll go on to someone we all know and we all adore. So Annika Greer finishing third. Very impressive, especially on that final workout.
I mean, I think it's fascinating if you're looking at her finishes versus where Grace and Miriam were. Grace 8th, 3rd, 24.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam 1, 37 second. Like those are very at the top of the pack. And then Annika's kind of top 50 with a very solid finish. Third place, obviously that bumps you up a ton. So it's interesting to see kind of that's how it shakes out for points in the Open. But also, I mean, nobody's surprised to see her here. Nobody's surprised. I love it. I'm excited for it. And she brings down the average age of top 3 women in the Open. I mean, 22, 23, 21. Let's go.
Yeah.
Here for the young blonde girls. Let's go. And she and Grace, as we've said before, every time we talk about them, maybe we talked about them at Wadapalooza, I was like, they're the same person from opposite sides of the world. Can't wait for them to just collaborate and be the best of friends. Makes sense. They said, let's go 1 and 3. Let's do it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing year to year, how many points is required to win the Open. There was a year that I think Mal O'Brien won with a second, four total points. The year that Cassie Lance McWhorter won in 2017, I think she had 186 points. So you never quite know, depending on obviously there were 5 workouts back then instead of 3. So there's, 40% more opportunity to have a workout that you get a high score on for not just the winner, but every athlete. But 30, like you said, 35 and 40 are about half the number of total points of third place Annika Greer. So clearly, Grace and Mirjam ended up having a little bit of a separation there from the rest of the field.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Annika said she redid that workout. If you saw her post the other day, she said she redid 24.3, and then Rebecca posted her time. It was like, just kidding. She wanted to win that one, and then there goes Rebecca.
Well,
8:43 is not bad.
Oh, it's not bad at all. Especially I wouldn't really pick Annika to be maybe top 10 in that workout. So it really says a lot about her fitness and what she's been up to. Obviously, to the gymnastics portion, she's really good at upper body pulling, but great job by Annika. And then kind of breaking away from the 23, 22, 21, you get the old mom, not old, at 30 years old, Ariel Lowen at number 4.
You about got in trouble for calling someone old.
No.
Well, relative to the top 3, she's got about 25%. 25% more.
She's not older. She's just a woman. She's a
veteran. Up. She's grown.
She's a grown up. She has kids.
She's a woman.
But second consecutive year that Ariel Lowen's been 4th place in the Open worldwide. Going into this week, when I saw the workout, I thought that she would make up the points gap and win. I thought that she would redo it, which she did after the Open announcement, and be closer to the 9-minute mark. Obviously, she was closer to the 10-minute mark. If she had been close to the 9, she would have been right in the mix with those top 2 women. But still, to go 4th in 2 consecutive years in the Open is a pretty impressive feat. And she's just been, as we continue to talk about, remarkably consistent with every competition, and not even just every competition, but pretty much every event in every competition that she competes in. Obviously, having qualified for the games the past couple of seasons, 3 seasons in a row now, she's only improving there. But at semifinals, she's been very consistent. over the last 3 years as well. And, she's, I just think it's getting harder and harder to ignore her anytime that she shows up, no matter what the field is. If you're not considering her as a top 5 threat at the minimum, you're overlooking someone that at this point, I don't think we can.
Absolutely. And I think it's fun. I think she is, not only claiming fittest mom, but one of the fittest American women. And I think that is something that's tough. That's a very tough title to hold on to. And she's continuing to do it. So I love Ariel Lowen being top 5 here for the Open.
Yeah,
And it makes sense to me.
with the screen that Patrick has there, because he hasn't gone one spot lower, she's only a flag from the U.S. in that top 8 right there.
Mhm.
And we have just talked about it in terms of the overall winners, but as this sport continues to expand globally, there are going to be athletes that are having impressive showings at every stage of the season and every competition that we watch from all over the place.
Speaking of impressive, and this is someone that when I did my PC picks in week 1, I neglected her, and I'm not going to call her old Lex. Not refuse to, because she can. I mean, I love this girl. This woman is unbelievable, and she can beat me up too. So is
Beat all three
very
of us up at the same time.
I know our favorite hockey player / now CrossFitter, because when I last spoke to her, I think she's playing less hockey. I mean, she's not playing it professionally because she just doesn't have the time for it. But yeah, Caroline Prevost.
Yeah, I mean, Prevost, you've seen her at the games. She's been there 3 times. She didn't make it last year. She was, relatively close, kind of in the mix in the East semifinal. Ended up, I believe, finishing 15th, 11th year of the Open, same as me. Congrats, Caroline. And I think that I think she will be in the mix again in the North America East semifinal. I made this kind of statement earlier in the week that I'm expecting the North America East semifinal from 1 through 40 on the men's and women's side to be the deepest, most competitive semifinal we've ever seen. The numbers are just like, you can't even argue with how many people used to be taken from North America in total to all the regional semifinals, et cetera, compared to this year. And the depth of talent, especially on the East, it's just crazy. But when you think about a field like that, and you have this understanding that there are going to be everyone's going to have a workout that you're like, oh my God, like I thought I crushed that and I finished 20th or whatever, that the ability to respond to those types of things mentally, and when you have a veteran, experienced athlete like Caroline, she doesn't get rattled by that stuff. She's going to go back, get ready, come back for the next one and perform again. And I think that actually gives her a little bit of an edge, because there are a lot of young women that will be in that field as well.
That's an interesting point. I think a lot of times people forget how much mental preparation and how much emotional prep goes into competing at a semifinal level. A lot of these ladies are very fit. A lot of the men are very fit. And then you get them into a live competition. Something doesn't go their way and they absolutely crumble emotionally. They can't figure out how to move past it. And it's always in the back of their mind if something doesn't go right. So I think, more veteran, more seasoned athletes in that way, they know how to navigate those emotions, and they know, okay, one bad thing doesn't mean I'm going to have a bad weekend. I just need to get it back together. It's a very good point, Brian.
Yeah. Oh, just a sin. It's Miriam, I guess. The J is silent. It's a Y.
Miriam.
Miriam.
Huh.
Miriam.
Bella was saying it correctly.
Yeah, of course she does. She's like a foreign correspondent over there. And not just Australia, just everywhere. One thing I did want to know about Prevost is as great as that 5th place finish is, it's not her best Open finish. She finished 3rd, I believe, in 2018. And so the Opens that's when it was 5 workouts. So great job on her. Yeah, and like said, quarterfinal is very significant for East semis. Top 40 is not guaranteed. You have one bad workout and you're out. So
we gotta have Lex on the podcast. Let's go.
I know. Thank you. For people that don't know Lex is our partner, and just overall just a great person, coach, everything. She does everything for Caroline. Just a great supporter and a big supporter of us. So thank you. So that's the top 5. Those are the money winners. Brian, as you said, he's pointed out many times, the Open outside of the games, it's a pretty big money making opportunity, especially if you finish, in the top 3. It's more than you would win. What I believe it's 10,000 if you win a semis now.
Unknown for this year. That's what it was last year, though.
Last year.
And also just like a cool configuration of women inside the top 10. You have 4 women that are 23 years old or younger. You have 4 women that are 30 years old or older. You got, I think, 6 different countries represented. It's pretty cool to have this this blend of women, young and old, experienced and kind of relatively new from different parts of the world. Some of them I think are going to go team this year potentially that are up here towards the top, but it's kind of a cool observation when looking at the the top 10 women out of 100 and whatever 40,000 that did this.
Can I say Amy Kringle being tied with Cara Saunders for 10th? That's phenomenal. I remember back in December when we were talking about her performances and just the athlete that she has become in the last year. This is very exciting because I think the UK is they need someone who's going to continue to push the boundaries and push, title of the fittest female in the UK. And I think it could be Amy, or, she has the potential.
She has a couple people we'll probably bring up. I mean, speaking Jennifer Muir, you have Ella Wilkinson. I mean, it looks like the women for the UK, it looks like it's on the come up. So
I love that.
And there's
sport, baby.
And they're young.
And they're young. And there is a little bit more opportunity in the Europeans women's field this year than the men's field, I think, for some athletes to make a big breakthrough. I think there were 6 or 7 of the top 25 from European semifinal that aren't competing this year, 3 of which had made the games, a couple that were kind of close. And Kringle was, pretty good 20th at the semifinal last year. So with 5 or so of those that were ahead of her out of the way, clearly she's looking pretty good here. So expect her to be in the mix at the semi as well.
From what I learned from Amy is that you need to move to Bali for a couple months, live there, get tan, get really fit, and then you can be top 10 in the Open. So if you need me next year,
that's where you're going to be.
Head out to Bali. Yeah.
Well,
why not? Right? Why not?
It's closer to your Oceania home. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Khan's been trying to get me to go out there and hang out. Like apparently he goes there a lot. But yeah, we talked about Amy last week in terms of for someone that has a really big social media presence that like she does, she doesn't put too much about her fitness on there. So we really had no gauge of how she was. What shape she in, what part of the season she's in. But, when you see something like the Open and her doing so well in these 3 workouts. Now, granted, she is known for being really good at rowing, really good at burpees, some of the endurance stuff. But still, I did not expect her to do as well at number 10 and being tied with someone, an OG, a Hall of Famer like Cara Saunders. And then right ahead of someone like DB.
Let's go, DB. I think it'll be fun for Danielle this season, moving to Nashville, having a lot of life changes. I hope she's having fun.
Are you excited for the DBE movie to come out?
Actually, to be honest, I am. I cannot wait to watch that. I get the email about it, I think, yesterday morning. I can't wait.
Good.
I'm so stoked.
Yeah. We already watched it. We had a chance to talk to Danielle about it, and we asked her 5 questions in a prelude to the movie. Hopefully not to give too much away. That will be, I think, dropping tomorrow morning. Kind of a little teaser.
So excited.
Yeah. And then the hopes are trying to get DB, maybe Cooper, and maybe Ariel to come on after the documentary come out and kind of like recap it and preview and ask additional questions. She's down for it. Just trying to find a time for DB.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin Van Ziel, obviously someone Bella from your neck of the woods. The name that sticks out to me, Elena Buds, former, she's no longer an underdogs athlete, but she lived in Vegas last year, had an injury that kind of stopped her career, her path. But finishing 14th, it's pretty cool for someone like her.
She's only 25 years old. This is by far the best Open performance that she's ever had. She did have a decent performance at semifinals back in 2022. She cracked into the top 10 at the Atlas Games there, but hasn't really done too much since then. Like you said, Patrick, she did have an injury, plenty of talent, and obviously a great Open performance. So be interesting to see what the next stages of the season look like for her.
This Leaderboard honestly makes me more excited for teams than individuals because if you're looking at it, Jamie's team, Christy's team, Matilda's team,
Mhm.
Cara's team, a lot of these athletes are team. So to see that they are still at the top of the field and they're choosing to compete on teams, that to me just says, hey, there's going to be a lot of really fun races to watch. It's not necessarily just going to be individual, but that team field is deep.
Yeah, the team competitions are going to be pretty tough this year as well, reducing the number of qualifying spots out of the two best regions when it comes to teams historically, North America East and Europe. Those are going to be extremely intense battles in the semifinal, but the teams that do make it out of there will be very good. I tried looking at the team leaderboard following the Open and was reminded for the 10th year in a row that it's completely useless to look at that. You don't really know who's on what team. But the quarterfinals for teams comes up really fast, about 2 weeks from now. And after that, we will have a really good idea of what those teams actually look like and plan on doing a show about that in between the team quarterfinals and the individual quarterfinals. You can join us, fella.
Yeah.
I love that. You know me. I'm all about it. Let's have a chat.
Yeah, great performance by Kyra over there. Speaking of underdogs athlete, she's just getting better and better. She is competing individual this year. She's not doing team. Let's number 23, Rebecca Foussier, who ultimately won 24.3. Last couple days, there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of I wouldn't say controversy.
Did CrossFit confirm her and Koski as the winners?
No, not yet. I've not seen anything yet.
I don't like to say anything is official until I hear it from CrossFit.
Exactly.
I thought they announced that they were the winners on their Instagram, but I could be wrong.
Like and look. Let me effort that. You guys continue on talking while I effort that.
Well, I'll say this: if you guys are like statistics, and when it comes to the sport of CrossFit, and you're not following La Perf on Instagram, we do a lot of collaboration posts with him. But we're waiting to see if this is an official score from Rebecca Foussier. If it is, I believe it's the most dominant open performance from a woman in history relative to the field. She's 43 seconds, I think, faster than Miriam. Second place time. Only person in the world, male or female, to go under 8 minutes on this workout. And as Patrick was alluding to, there are some points of conversation surrounding the range of motion of her movement in the workout. But we can talk about that if we want to. But regardless, this is a workout that should, on paper, be excellent for her as an athlete. But like I said earlier, just because it's excellent for you as an athlete does not mean that you have the capacity and mental toughness to be able to put a time like this on paper. When you look at this time, Bella, come on.
I mean, I was watching athletes do this for the last week, and 7:52 to me almost seems, I mean, if that's the score and that's the time, congratulations. 7:52 is unbelievable. When Noah Olson is putting up an 8:30, to say that someone like Rebecca is that dominant over these other athletes, not saying she's not, that to me, if someone is that far of an outlier, I don't want to say I'm calling shenanigans, but that's unbelievable.
That's kind of what when Matthias sent me the stat about her, I said, let's wait to see the video and let's see if it gets approved, if we get a chance to see it, because on paper, it does look so ridiculous compared to the rest of the scores that you're thinking to yourself, like, what's going on here? And if you're talking about, 80, what is the word? 85 thrusters and 85 gymnastics
85
movements.
Thrusters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That, let's just say that on 85 thrusters, not talking about Rebecca, just any athlete is shorting the range of motion on both ends by, a tenth of a second. Well, these 0.2 of a second over 85 reps, that ends up being 40 seconds or, for 15 seconds, we'll say. But it also, if you're missing that end range of motion for whatever reason, then you can be, the fatigue is less, the further away that a weight gets from your body, the harder it is to lift it. And obviously the last part of the press is the hardest part of the press. And so you can start thinking about, when you're talking about the margins being this small for the best athletes in the world, those things matter. And that's why you want to see everyone moving the full range of motion. And this is not just a problem with this workout. It's not just a problem with one athlete. It's clearly a problem with online competition in general, that I don't have a great answer to. But we can see over the course of the past couple of weeks, as we have over the course of the past decade plus, that there's just athletes that will ride the line. And in the open and quarterfinal format, there are athletes that will get away with that.
And the thing is, I don't even know if I would consider what she's, dealing with riding a line. She's always wearing an elbow brace in every competition you see her in. She always has that extra sleeve on. And if I'm thinking of like Olympic lifting competitions, if you can't actually fully extend your arms, you have to show the judges, hey, I cannot fully extend my arms. And if it's an actual physical, lack of movement, like she cannot physically move that, okay, then sure, 752, congratulations, that's amazing. But if you have the potential to actually fully extend and lock out your arms, you have to do it. It's like when you see someone on the rings, when someone has come to full extension and if they haven't.
Right. And I think that, one of the key points is here, if you look at the variety of reps, there are reps that look different than other reps. And there's reps where the range of motion looks like she's pressing it out more than she is in the early parts of the workout. Maybe it's because fatigue. Rich Froning taught us all this however many years ago, that you can just take that pause at the top of a thruster. It's the perfect pace to breathe. And if you get more tired and you do that, and you're starting suddenly to have a greater range of motion than you did earlier in the workout, those are the things where then people start to call into question, well, what actually is your range of motion? Because yes, we know that she has this elbow thing, but are you taking advantage of it? Or is that actually the limit that you have on every rep?
Yeah. I watched the video that she put out there. I watched her do it, and I'm not her judge, so I can't speak on the elbow. And I always see her with the elbow sleeve. So, if she is that dominant in this workout compared to the entire world, not just the women's field, but the entire world, then I cannot wait to see what else she can do the rest of the year.
Yeah. CrossFit has not released anything yet
Okay.
but usually around this time I wouldn't be surprised if we get an email from Chris Madigan at some point. It seems like the last couple of weeks he's hit us when we're on live. So, but as of now, nothing official has been put out announcing her as the 24.3 winner or the overall winners of the Open. So right now, first place unofficial with an unofficial time of 7:52. I will say it's good on her to kind of maybe get ahead of some of the controversy 100%. If there is some. She's made numerous statements, put out some videos. So good on her. It's something that she expected, and she put it out there. And so
she did. She definitely. I think she handles it well.
And by the way, as we know, if you submit the best score in the world for an open workout, that video is going to be under a different level of scrutiny than all of the rest of the videos. Yeah. That's CrossFit's mode of operation. We saw it last week, and if you are Rebecca Fuseli, like, what is winning? It's a $2,000 paycheck, so it's worth it to try. And she, like Patrick said, she did everything she can. She put it out there. She demonstrated an insane capacity, regardless of what ends up happening. And what's the worst thing that happens? She gets a 200 rep penalty like Tudor Magda, and she advances to quarterfinals like the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. We're gonna keep on moving on. Someone in your neck of the woods, Emily Rethwell, she falls into that team competition. Great performance by her. She's someone that's been ascending the last couple of years. Known for just amazing abs. I don't know what it's just. Every time I see her, it's just abs.
I'll tell her that when I see her later. I'll be like, "Hey, by the way, your abs."
Amazing. I think I might have even said that to her in person. So, she'll probably be running with you this evening, anyways. And then, kind of 29th, someone that we talked about is in terms of Oceania athletes. Like you said, Brian, there's no guarantee because you have an athlete like Laura Clifton who made the games in 2022. Coming out of
when there were only 3 spots, she kept Maddie stirred out. And look, right here we see Hannaford and Clifton. We've already seen Van Zillen, Walton, Maddie Sturt. Like, that's at least 5 women in Oceania that if you don't think that they have a chance, they're in the top, all 5 in the top 35 of the Open. Okay, If you don't think that any of those women have a chance to make the CrossFit Games, you're not respecting the field enough over there, even though it doesn't have those huge, big names with almost guaranteed top 10 finishes at the games that we're used to seeing. We've been talking about the depth of the European women's field for a while. And the reason why we've wanted to see more spots in the past is so that some of these younger athletes could get a chance. This year, there's a huge opportunity. We're going to potentially see some new blood. But if Laura Clifton and Maddie Sturt get it done, that still leaves only one spot for a rookie out of Oceania. And so the margins are still incredibly small. Obviously, we need to see through the quarterfinals, let CrossFit do their distributions. Possibly they earn an extra spot. But, you know, if it's only 3, which is what I think it will be, it's still going to be a tough spot to get.
Yeah. There's also Julia Hannaford that's up there on the screen right now. She had a show-out performance back in December. Again, another young athlete, very hungry, very fit, very strong. I mean,
beat Grace Walton at Wadapalooza by a couple spots.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the depth of field in Australia and New Zealand, nobody truly, unless you're out there, you don't get to see it.
But look at her performances here. What you have to realize is that in an Oceania semifinal, that is not a good thing, the same way that it can be in a European or North America East semifinal.
True.
Because there's just not as, like, there is depth there enough that the spots will be competitive, but there's not 30 women that are going to be like,
no.
And if a workout comes up like 278th compared to 2nd and 7th in a semifinal, that's the equivalent of saying, okay, I can take top 3 on 3 workouts. Maybe I'll be about 10th on the other 2. But if a workout comes out where you're 34th, you're out. You're not making one of those top 3 spots. So that's the kind of red flag for me with the Julia Hannaford compared to some of the other women, is how big of an outlier that bad performance was. And that if a workout like that happens to show up, she could very much have what happened to Guy down in South America happen to her last year, where no amount of good performances can overcome it. But we'll see.
I think, but with Guy last year, I think he was going through a little bit more of like an emotional and mental journey that he, partly opened up about. So I think his performance has kind of leaned a little bit towards not as great because of what else he was dealing with in life. And I mean, we talked about that earlier. If you can handle the emotions of,
that's true, but still, after that first finish of 15th, he goes 1st, 2nd, 1st, 6th, 1st, 3rd, and it wasn't enough.
Phenomenal athlete, and I mean, he's going against Kaike and athletes like that, and then Kaike does not do the best at the games. But I think if Guy had gone, Guy would have done better. Yeah, and so it just
This is just for people to understand the different nuance of one of these semifinals compared to the European semifinal, for example, where a bad performance there, you can overcome it with a couple of great performances because there's going to be volatility up and down the leaderboard event to event because the field is so good top to bottom. Whereas in Oceania, Maddie Sturt's not going to have a finish outside of the top 15. So if you want to beat her for a spot, you can't either. Because she's going to be she may not have a 1st and a 2nd like you're going to have, but she's also not going to have that massive outlier on the back end. So it's just a different kind of a game. This is what they're playing, the athletes. Like, they're playing a game that's designed by CrossFit to try to make it to the CrossFit Games, but the structure of that game, the nuance with which you have to play, varies depending on where you live.
Yes, which is really fun. I think it'd be really fun if everybody had to do the workouts at the same time, on the same day, and then you just qualified based on that. So it would be what it is. Like, maybe you had to do it 2 a.m. in America, and then it would just like rotate through. Everyone would do the same time. There's no gamification of it. Very Hunger Games style. I don't know.
Hunger Games. So before we move on, I'm just so happy Sarah finishing 30th. I think it's a great performance for her in the Open, especially the last 2 workouts, 22nd, 29th. I think, I know it's far to say that she's back, but this is a very good sign for someone like her.
I mean,
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, she's performing well in the Open. It's the depth of field competing in Europe. I mean, it's going to be very tough for her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not counting her out by any means. Obviously, she had this kind of tragic situation in the second to last workout at semifinals last year. She takes a 56th, but the rest of her workouts were in the range of 11th to 26th, which is consistent, but it's not good enough. You have to have some top 10, top 5 finishes to go with, a couple of those teen finishes pushing towards the 20s. And especially if you're going to have a bad performance for whatever reason, you cannot, like, there's no hope of making it without offsetting that. So I still think she'll be in the fight in Europe, but she's going to need to be a better version than she was last year at the semifinal across the board, not just avoid one kind of a pitfall of a workout if she wants to make the games.
I completely agree.
Well, speaking of Icelandic athletes, let's talk about Katrin. Not the greatest performance by her, finishing 343rd.
Do what you
Thoughts
gotta
on
do.
that? Yeah.
Do what you gotta do. I think that was kind of the name of the game for some of the women's athletes this Open is, I mean, 25% gonna make it on. Do what you gotta do for 25%. Taylor Reber, welcome back to competition. You just gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Not worried about Katrin at all. She's a veteran. She knows what she's doing. She's got very probably specific goals for this year that revolve around, clean executions at quarterfinals and semifinals. And then, if those things go well, peaking for the CrossFit Games, which she had a lot of success at last year. So she knows how to play the game like we're talking about. And while it is a tremendous accomplishment to do extremely well in the Open, by no means is it necessary if you're one of the best in the world. So no sweat for me for athletes like that.
No sweat.
Well, if those who follow Brooke Wells on her YouTube channel and Instagram, she put out a video, and there were some people that said that, hey, she only did one muscle up, and she was able to kind of explain why, finishing 6,000th, and only doing 107 reps in the final workout after
no muscle
two.
ups.
But no muscle ups, just a tie break. So she disclosed that she actually tore her labrum after Wadapalooza. Those who remember, well, you probably don't remember this at all, Bella, because you live in freaking San Diego. But there was a snowstorm that hit the Midwest.
Can't relate.
Snowstorm that hit the Midwest and actually delayed a lot of flights. I think we all probably saw that. But it was after that, and she slipped, and instead of catching herself, she had things in her arm. She landed on her shoulder, and thought it was initially some soreness, and eventually went and saw a doctor, and it was a torn labrum. So she's been doing the Open with the torn labrum the last.
That's quite a fall.
Yeah.
To tear a labrum, falling on ice, that's quite a fall.
Yes.
I've fallen on ice and split my head open.
Kind of same.
Makes sense to me. That makes sense. Like, I've tripped and I cracked my head open as a kid. I mean, that's shenanigans. But again, she did what she needed to do to make it on. And I think when you have quarterfinals being top 25%, these athletes that play the game, they know what they have to do to make top 25%.
But it is a lot more concerning than an athlete like Katrin when you know that there's a legitimate injury in play, that she has to manage that in training. The margins are very small this year, even for someone who's as good and experienced and accomplished as Brooke Wells is. This is something that makes me think that, I don't have a lot of confidence knowing that the season's going to go the way that I had thought it would for her otherwise.
I think maybe this could be another year for Sydney Wells. I think it's fun. We might not have Brooke, but we have Sydney.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about it, but like you were in the first week at the Open announcement, I didn't get hired to be there, but I was there, and I actually had a front row seat for Sydney Wells. She was the athlete right in front of us, and I was pretty impressed with her. Obviously, she ended up finished last amongst those four, but sometimes people look at that and they'll just look at the placement or the time. I think about it the same way that I think about Emma Carey in the final workout of the Granite Games a few years back when she just went for it with overhead lunges. She ended up failing and failing and failing. She fell from I think she would have won if she had finished that, to finishing third behind Ariel and Mal. And then people were like, oh, that was a failure. I was like, no, it wasn't a failure. It was a risk. And it was probably a calculated risk. And that's what I saw from Sydney Wells in the Open announcement, is that she was feeling pretty good through the first 5, 6, 7 rounds. And she caught up to Jay and Ariel. And I love it. Like, Similarly with Fusile submitting your open video, like, why not go for it? Who knows when the next time you're ever going to get a chance to do a live open announcement is? And what's the worst thing that happens? You finished 4th place behind 2 of the top 10 men and the best woman in America. Like, well, everyone was expecting that anyway. So I thought it was great what she did. She looked really good. She took a risk and still had a good performance anyway. So yeah, maybe another good year for Sydney Wells.
I like it. Making a name for herself. I think when it comes to like having a sibling that does the same thing that you do, that has, made history and she's made a name for herself, trying to, hey, I'm going to do it my way. Let's go. I'm excited. I like Sydney. I'm here for the stories.
You see him in the background there sitting in that cold plunge tub?
In the cold plunge.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I had the pleasure of being in the same group as him at Power Monkey Camp. It was a very, very entertaining week.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I will say that Brooke did say that again she'll be fine by quarterfinals, but again a torn labrum and knowing that there could be high skill involved, it's great that she's optimistic about that, and I hope that it is, because obviously a healthy Brooke Wells we haven't seen in a couple of years. We have a healthy Brooke we haven't seen in a while, actually maybe 2020. So
2021.
2021, because so let's draw your dagger. It takes about 8 to 10 weeks recovery with no surgery. So and Sarah did bring it similar to what Amanda did as well. And then that brings us to Tia. Now we're used to Tia being at the top of that leaderboard. She was dealing with the I guess they call it the mommy's wrist. Still did a 61st, a 10th, and then just did 7 rounds of this workout. Obviously, she was supposed to do the open announcement, but declined due to her wrist injury, and now we see why. So
can I just say the tiebreak time of 3 minutes?
It's amazing.
She was hustling.
Yeah.
She might not have finished that workout, but that tiebreak time, 3 minutes.
I think a perfectly healthy Tia Claire Toomey could potentially challenge Fusile's time on this workout.
100%. But I would never put the two of them in the same conversation. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's why that time is so fantastic, is because if it was Tia, it's like, sure, probably. Checks out.
I mean, this is the kind of workout like 3 years ago. I just think that Carrie, O'Brien, and Toomey would have been 1, 2, 3 in some order, and no one else would have had close.
Well, I see what Rebecca's time was for the tiebreak.
Oh, 1 second.
I'm just curious.
Let's see what she
now
was.
My brain is all curious.
Oh, it's not listed on there.
Oh, you only have a tie. You only list the tiebreak if you
didn't
finish.
Yeah. So
that's too bad. Actually, that would have been
that would have been really
great
cool
to see the tie breaks for the top guys. I mean, and women, men and women athletes. When I was preparing for Taylor versus Colton, just in case Savan decided to have me on the show. So I made this little spreadsheet because I was like, Roman closed the gap so fast on the last 2/3 or last third of that workout that the entire broadcast team missed it, and they thought he was an entire round behind. But this is this type of workout. Like, the only rounds that matter for the pros are 8, 9, 10. It doesn't matter if you're a minute slower on the first half. And I would have loved to see the disparity or discrepancy amongst those top athletes of how they chose to attack the first part compared to what they were able to do on the second part. And I bet we would have seen some variety.
Danny and his naked child here said 2:59, he recalls. So right around that mark. So it would have been fun to watch.
I would love to see a side-by-side video of the two of them throwing down.
Just the first 5 rounds?
I mean, that would be fun just to watch too.
That's all I need. That's all I need.
All right. Well,
speed, whatever.
Bella, we only have you for like 7 minutes here, but let's switch over to men's side, and we'll just. I know how the time flies, right?
Guys, I recently learned I'm a yapperdoodle. I talk a lot.
Well,
sometimes people that have golden retriever energy. I'm a yapperdoodle energy.
You're on the perfect show.
I just talk.
And you have the perfect jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, right? I love it. Exactly. I love my job. Okay.
Kind of
let's do it.
speaking before you go,
Mhm.
before we're talking about how I would love to seen Fraser do this workout.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he would have been the
Well, he
guy
did
who
it,
would,
but
yeah,
He
but
the team
anyways,
version of this.
the team version with Clink, with the dad version. But yeah. So Bella, before we go, what do you want to talk about regarding the men's field?
okay, first thing, let's talk about Jay and let's talk about Luca because
Okay.
I love seeing Jay on top of the leaderboard globally. I mean, you guys know I love it. I'm all for them. I love it when Australian athletes do well, but seeing him do this well, it's not surprising to me, but I like to see it because I think if someone's going to win their overall region multiple times, that's phenomenal. But how does he stack up against the rest of the world? I like to see this. I would love to see, you know, a top 5 Jay Crouch at the games. That'd be great. I would love to see it, and maybe it's
Yeah, I mean
possible.
he's a phenomenal open athlete. For last 4 years, 17th or better. This being his best ever finish. Obviously, he's won his
Mhm.
own semifinal multiple times, and he broke through at the highest level last year. Not just taking a top 10 at the games, but also finishing a top 10 at Rogue Invitational, which is, you know,
Yep.
arguably just as hard to do. The guy is, like I mentioned earlier, one of the top 10 in the world right now. You can't dispute it. He's just as good at online competitions as he is in person. Very, very few weaknesses. Only seems to be rounding out his game in all capacities. He's a lethal threat at any competition he shows up to. And like, not every athlete like that can also excel in the open year after year after year. But Jay's one of
It's
those
true.
guys that can do both.
He's also young.
He is.
It's the year for the young
Him
athletes.
and Maddie.
Well,
Him
I'm
and
saying
Maddie.
it's the year for the young guys. This sub 25 age group, they're in the top of their game right now, as we've seen them because they're on the come up. That tells you a lot about how the sport is going to be moving forward. Because I feel like
He
historically, seeing like
he reminds me a little bit of Jonakowski, where he had success at when he was about 20 years old, to the point of being able to make it to the games. He wasn't having the breakout or improving kind of performances that he wanted, but he was gathering experience at a young age that is invaluable as you're able to move forward in your career. And now that he's 25, or maybe he'll be 26 this year, usually that 26, 7, 8 time period is when you see athletes start to really hit their stride in terms of what's the peak potential, assuming that they have the training experience already, which Jay obviously has, both in the gym and on the competition floor. To make the top 5 at the CrossFit Games in the men's field this year is a very tall ask, but to think that he doesn't have the potential to it is probably a little bit naive as well. Like, it is within the realm of possibility for someone like this.
Yeah, and it speaks to maybe switching his training programs now that he's had proven he's seeing a lot of success now. So we'll see what that looks like moving forward through quarterfinals. Not worried about him at semifinals, and then I'm excited to see how he can stack up at the games again.
I'm curious as to what you wanted to say about Luka Vunjak.
I'm shocked. I've seen Luka compete before. Not saying Luka's not a phenomenal athlete, but top 5 in the Open from Luka was very surprising to me. As I was going through top 10, both men and women, this one was the most shocking.
Yeah, he doesn't have the most consistent resume, like we just mentioned with Jay. Saxon Panchik's won the Open before. Noah Olsen's won the Open before. Jonakowski, no one's surprised by that. You see his best previous finish there is 38th a couple of years ago. He did have a really good semifinal last year, and he missed by 3 spots, but the 3 guys that just missed, so Fabian Benito got the last spot. The next 3 guys were Colin Bossard, Victor Hoffer, and Luka Vunjak, and they were really close on points, that kind of group. And Vunjak actually had the best worst finish relative to Hoffer and Bossard by a significant margin. But those guys had those wins, those top 3, 5 finishes, whatever, that he didn't have. So he was basically 9th to 28th. So he's just like, this type of performance, he needs to be able to parlay that into at least one workout at semis where he's able to have a top 5 finish and then maintain that level of consistency. If you think about the field being 40 instead of 60, that would be all top half finishes, right? 28th being his worst finish. So if he can have all top half finishes plus 1 or 2 finishes that are maybe 6th and 3rd, then this guy is also one of the men in Europe that has to be in the conversation of possibly being an upset pick to make the games even.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, I think he's a dark horse. He's an underdog, but I don't think you usually see underdogs top 5 in the Open. So
Justin Collins will be like, "What? You underdogs won the Open?"
We love no. We love the underdogs. I'm saying underdog.
Gotcha.
No, Justin would say, "Hey, every dog has his day."
Exactly.
That's so cute. So cute.
Bella, yeah, you gotta get going.
Before you go, Bella, just give us your final thoughts on the Open as a whole, whether it's your experience, the programming, the community, anything you want to say about 2024 Open.
So I got to experience, obviously, week 1. I was at the Open announcement. I thought that was absolutely a blast. It was so much fun to be included in that. So, thank you to CrossFit for having me out. I would say the other 2 weeks, I was in a couple different affiliates experiencing the community aspect of it. And I think this Open, at least in the years that I've been doing CrossFit, was the most community friendly. I was absolutely shocked at the workout that was released for week number 3. I thought it was going to be something maybe a little bit more community friendly, but they have their reasons for programming, and I think it was a great workout overall. But I think if we're looking at how the sport's going to be moving forward, I love that the Open is going to be leaning more towards community versus the elite athletes. And I think we're seeing that, in not only the gyms, but on the leaderboard as well. Those workouts were great for most people. And it was really fun to watch people put themselves out of their comfort zones and throw down and have a really good time. So my favorite, last month of life so far is great.
If one of those 3 workouts was going to be a repeat workout next year, which one would you like to see?
Let's go with week 1, but with a heavier dumbbell. I think I would prefer that. Slow it down a little bit. I think that's
I was going pretty slow anyway, but fair enough.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right, Bella. Thank you for joining us. Have fun at your run club.
Of course.
Always a pleasure to have you here. We'll keep
I'm
inviting
in my running era.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Tell the crew I said what's up. Els, Kitty, Ellie, and Jameson, and everyone that's there. All right.
Oh, I will. Thanks, guys. Have fun.
Yep. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Just as dudes. All right. Let's talk. Well, let's head back up to the top of the leaderboard. This is someone you picked earlier. I think it was after 24.1 or 2 that you said he has a really good chance of winning this.
Yeah, coming into the final week, I thought that either Koski or Saxon Panchik would win the Worldwide Open just because of what it was likely to be and their skill sets compared to some of the guys that were ahead of them. I mean, there was the obviously unknown of Cale Lehman that was hard to predict. But when you looked at Alexander Caron and Dallin Pepper, who were the other 2 guys ahead of them, I just thought that even though those are super fit guys that will probably do well on the final week, that Koski and Panchik would have a chance to have top 10, maybe top 5 finishes on whatever ended up coming out. And I was assuming thrusters and gymnastics, on the pull-up bar, which is a wheelhouse for both of those guys. And sure enough, Koski at this moment has the top score in the world. Saxon has the 8th best score in the world. And both of those guys remain in the top 5, where the other 3 guys all fell out of the top 5 this week. But when I saw this workout specifically, this just looked like Yona Koski to me. I mean, the guy's not super big. He's 5'7" or 8, but he's actually got pretty big, strong hands for his size. I talked to some elite athletes who said that grip became a factor on this workout. I was not concerned about his squatting or strength as far as the barbell is concerned. We've seen him, go toe-to-toe with guys like Roman Krennikov on DT with a spin at the Rogue Invitational. Like, he can move a barbell super well. His upper body gymnastics pulling is phenomenal. And so I thought this might be a chance, a good one for him to maybe win the Open, which he did, but also to win the workout worldwide. I wasn't as confident in that call, obviously. And Colton Mertens did give him a second run and got kind of close to him. But, at this moment, you got to give your hats off to Yona Koski. And oh my God, dude, some of the games athletes have been posting the most hilarious thing. I don't know if you saw when Fikowski posted the guy that's getting in the car just laughing like he got away with a robbery or murder or something. And he's Yona Koski after the one and done 8:03 on 24.3. And then Valner, with the one flew over the cuckoo's nest, I think, reference. Oh man. And like all these guys at the top of the sport know each other. They probably have text message threads with each other. It's fun to see them having, I mean, obviously you saw this American Sniper for Hopper and himself, and then Hopper follows up with a little bit of a rib at Vellner. So that's always just a kind of a fun part of the Open, as well as the way that the elite athletes go back and forth with each other on Instagram.
Yeah, it kind of brings me back to when Fikowski and Vellner, when they were having who else was involved with they had those contests. It was
Joe Scaly, maybe Mitch Barnard, and maybe one other guy. But yeah, they used to all have some punishments every week in the Open. Yes.
Yeah, but I like to see. I do like that on the men's side. You see a lot of that.
They're reading the poem from the bathroom and the tub, and so there's some great stuff back there, man. I wish they'd bring some stuff back like that. Like, why not? Imagine a group of guys like that James Sprague, Down Pepper, Jason Hopper, Ricky Garrard, or something. We're doing something like that. Oh my! Like, this would be so. Like, people would love that.
Yeah. I agree, and I think we're gonna get back to. I mean, obviously, the men's side, you're showing a lot of that camaraderie amongst the athletes, and we've seen that in person, whether it be at Rogue and some of these other competitions. They have a tendency to be a little bit more tightly grouped, and I don't know, maybe not taking yourself. They take the competition seriously, but I don't think they take themselves too seriously until it's that last day. It's great to see Saxon. Looks like he's bouncing back from that injury. Obviously he's training with Facundo now. He's still in Nashville, but I'm not going to say he's a mayhem athlete. I guess he's just training Facundo as his coach. But yeah,
I think that's probably appropriate to say. In the off season of 2023, I had already put him back inside the top 20 in the world for men. Look at, he's 28 years old. He's got a ton of experience. And he's proven himself at the highest level, winning semifinals, top fives at the games. Like, the guy's extremely, extremely fit. I think he's in a really good place right now from the people that I've spoken to. I would expect him to be, I don't want to say comfortable to make the games at the semis, because I don't know if anyone's going to be comfortable at that semifinal. But I think he's on track to be in the mix at the games once again. Top 20, flirting with top 10, which is very difficult to do in the men's field right now, but he's certainly capable.
Yeah. And then we talked about Jay, we talked about Luca, Noah. Obviously, I love what he's been doing. He's been doing.
I'm pretty sure. I think this is his best Open finish since he won it in 2016. Like, it's like you think about Noah Olsen, and you know that he's good in the Open. You know that he's good pretty much everywhere. But yeah, I mean, okay, a couple 6th places.
2017,
second in 2017. So it's been a while since he's had a top 5 finish in the Open. We almost take it for granted amongst the rest of the names up there, but it's a good lesson. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. It's not easy to finish in the top of the Open field.
Yeah. And the thing with him is, like, as soon as it's announced, it was almost like clockwork. It was like, well, Noah's going to be one of the first people in the world after the Open announcement to do this workout. And he's going to put a very competitive time up there, and one and done. So, I give him much respect for that, because, if he really wanted to win the Open, which, he's still getting some cash out of this. So I think $1,000, or I think is what 5th place gets. But, I mean, if he really wanted to win the Open, I could see him, doing some of these workouts again, but that's not where he's at in this point in his career. But good on him.
No, and I do just want to say, because he's taken a lot of heat over the years about totally mispacing workouts when it comes to competition, but 24.3, I don't want to say it's the best I've ever seen, but it's got to be up there in terms of the best workouts I've ever watched him. And from a pacing perspective, I tracked his times per round, and I did it from when he when you touch the barbell, that would start the second round. So that accounts for both transitions, barbell to pull up bar, back to barbell. And compared to Jay Crouch and Roman Krennikov, who were the only other two kind of data points that I had prior to this study, he was behind both of them through 4 rounds. He finished the first couplet, first 5 rounds, 1 second ahead of Roman. And it wasn't until starting round number 8 that he passed Jay Crouch. And then obviously goes on to have a time of 8:30 or 8:29, whatever it was. So he was doing this thing that you want to see, which is getting faster.
Yep.
And basically he's not really getting faster. He's not having longer transitions as the rounds wear on where other athletes are. So I thought, to do a workout once early in the week, post it, call it a day, and finish 5th in the world in the Open, incredibly impressive, but also just in the context of who he is as an athlete, historically, that specifically that workout on 24.3, I thought was extremely impressive.
Fabian, a really good performance, him finishing 6th.
Yeah, I kind of, for some reason, I just feel bad for Fabian. I mean, I shouldn't feel bad for him that he just barely missed the money. Like, this is a great performance for him.
Yeah.
I know, like, prior to winning Dubai that one year, after he won Dubai that one year, he basically started telling people that I've just been so close and constantly coming up second, so close and constantly just missing my goal or not making the money or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He's had more success since then. Obviously, that was a huge win for him. He made the games last year. But nevertheless, regardless of the 5th or 6th or whatever, phenomenal performance. Less than 100 points across the 3 weeks in the men's field is obviously super impressive. Jeff Adler right there is one of the most consistent athletes in every competition that he ever shows up in. So anyone who's finishing ahead of that should feel really, really good about these 3 performances.
Yeah. And then my boy Cale Lehman, the cadet from the military academy, not bad, 67th. I mean, this is for someone that's
absolutely held his own, dude. I mean, look, there
Yep.
were some seriously fit dudes that didn't have times that good. So I know he falls out of the top 5 here, but I don't know. I mean, I really do not know what a guy who's 5 feet tall can do in this sport in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But as a series of 3 workouts, my goodness, man, hats off to you. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, very impressive by him. So really interested to see what he does in the quarterfinals. And then Brandon Luckett, we can't, I mean,
this is the best Open performance of his career, for sure. I have no idea what this guy's plans are for this year. He's only 29 years old. Like, in the North America West, I think he can. I mean, he can absolutely make it to the semis, and I think he has a chance to make the games out there. I mean, it won't be easy. I don't think they're going to get a ton of spots. I think they'll have less than 10, but. I mean, look at these scores, dude. Like, that's ridiculous. The guy looks, like we talked about the other week, just like a superhero. And obviously he's moving incredibly well. So I hope he competes because he clearly is about as fit. I mean, I feel like he's got to be about as fit as he's ever been.
Yeah. I think one thing about him is he's so unassuming. He acts very mature he's 29, but every time I look at him, I feel like he's a guy who's like, oh, this year he's going masters or he's a masters athlete, but he's not. He's just a guy who's very mature, he acts like the adult in the room, I think, at times. Some people may disagree, but I've heard that he has a very comedic side. No, that's really cool for Brandon, especially for certain people who, the people out there that question his fitness, but he obviously is very fit and one of the fittest people in the world. Patrick Vellner, and then we kind of get into, Austin Hatfield's a name, an up and coming athlete, someone that you said keep an eye out for this year.
I would say he's in a somewhat similar to Grace Walton or a Bill Leahy. Like, as far as the CrossFit Games season yet, he hasn't broken through. I mean, he was obviously was super close last year at the semifinals, and that was his first ever competition. Then he goes on to win Crash Crucibles. That's why I said somewhat, because he's actually had a little bit more success than those athletes at relevant competitions. I mean, Bill was also there at Crash Crucible and didn't do as well as Austin. He withdrew from the semifinals last year. And obviously Austin having an amazing Open performance here. This guy, I think when I'm take all the athletes who are no longer competing this season out of it, I'm really having a hard time not placing him inside the top 40 in the world already, even though he hasn't broken through. And that I'm sometimes hesitant to do that. The guy seems to have the build, the mindset, everything just seems to be lining up for this kid to be incredibly good at this sport. It's still a matter of doing it when it counts, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to see some impressive stuff come May from this kid.
Yeah, and then we kind of get into this next batch of athletes. A lot of them are familiar games athletes, ones that are top 10, top 5 podium contenders. Ricky, Dallin, Roman, Colton. Those are some of the more familiar names. Obviously, Colton with 2 just amazing performances. One that you got to see live, that the whole country got to see live through the Taylor versus World. And of course, you can't,
The whole world potentially.
yeah. And then that just amazing time in 24.1. And I still think that 24.2, that was probably, I thought it was most impressive of the 3 for him to go on the road again in, I guess, enemy territory in a workout that he wasn't expected to do very well in, and he did really well. 922 reps. It was better than some of the athletes who thought.
I mean, and let's be just quite clear. He could have done better than that.
Oh yeah,
the setup that CrossFit had for them in the shred shed was the least optimal of any elite athlete that I saw do it. So just a matter of reformatting the layout, he would have improved his score. Then he also gave away like 10 or 15 seconds tripping on his jump rope, which can be, I mean, for these athletes, 15 seconds, you're doing 30 jump ropes. Like that could potentially be 30 reps if he gets into a jump rope towards the end of the workout there. He could have had a score that was, closer to 950 reps on that workout, potentially in a little bit of a different format, especially when you think about that we actually know that he redid one of the workouts. Mm-hmm. And even though he only improved by 11 seconds on that, like he seems to be the type of athlete that if you give him an extra day or 2 to think about it, to kind of make a couple adjustments, whatever it is, that he can find that maybe 5%, 2% difference that, it can make a difference. So I would agree that was probably, like the other 2 workouts, it makes total sense for him to have scores that are that good relative to the world based on what we know about him as an athlete. Based on what we know about him as an athlete, that second workout should be challenging for him to have scores relative to some of these other guys, but he does not accept excuses.
Yep.
He thrives when the world tries to make an excuse for him. He says, no, that's the thing I'm going to go work on the most. And he will never talk about it other than to say that I've been working on it. I've been working on my rowing. I've been working on my biking. I've been working on the wall balls. Everyone knows these things about him now, but it's still the same thing we just said with Austin Hatfield. You have to show up and do it. And I think he surprised everyone with that performance, and that it's pretty realistic to say that he could have actually improved that score in some different circumstances.
Definitely. Looking at his judges and like where he's done this, CrossFit Proven, Nick Johnson, CrossFit Shred Shed with our buddy Drake. And then obviously he redid the workout, I imagine at his home gym with Allison judging him there. But
otherwise it would have said Lizzie Self.
Yes, it would have. So he would have had quite the, you'd be hard pressed to find 3, judges in 3 different areas. I mean, for him, what he did during this Open, it was impressive. 3 locations, no home court advantage, no, not having that crowd.
Not quite 3 different continents, but still very impressive.
Very impressive. Yeah.
I just want to talk about Mikko Liljeorg really quickly. We've spoken about him before. He was up towards the top 25 the first week of the Open. He maintains that position there. If he makes it to the European semifinal, keep an eye on him. He's super fit young guy, very strong, talented, has a huge engine, big capacities, and working his ass off. I've seen him compete live a couple times this offseason. Like I will continue to hammer this point home. It is so hard to qualify for a semifinal this year in Europe or North America. But if the guy gets there, it'd be worth just recognizing that he can have some pretty impressive performances.
Well, just look at the names after him. Victor Hoffer, BKG, Oldest, Guillaume Briand. I mean, these are all games athletes, and he finished ahead of him in the Open. But these are the same athletes he's going to be competing for those spots at.
Yeah.
Okay. Impressive performance by Will. Give it up to Will, who's been kind of
still got it.
He still got it, and he's actually aged up to Masters.
I think he's in first place in that Masters 35 to 39 division, which, as we all know, is. I actually did worse in the Masters division than the worldwide division.
Damn it!
No, it doesn't happen, dude. It's supposed to be easier.
Yeah. And then Justin, 2-time fittest man on earth, 30th. not a bad open for him. I mean, considering what the season is coming off of, and he seems like he's in a really good mental state. Guy finishing 34th. Scott Tetlow, here's someone that he did really well in first workout, like I predicted, and then really well in the second workout. The last workout. He's one of the shorter athletes, but did really well in both those workouts. And
Brian Wynn just sneaking in there. This guy, he hasn't made these like huge achievements in live competition, but he's often competing at the big events, and he's pretty consistent and steady athlete. I don't know that he's done anything singularly in his career that would make him pop on your radar, but in terms of consistent performances over a number of years in a row in a variety of different places, the guy is very impressive just on the outside looking in. So you don't hear about him that often, but wanted to just give him a little love right there.
Yeah. Our buddy Travis Mead still loves the open, still just hanging around. Cole Sager, someone we haven't really talked about much this whole off season because we really don't. Cole's really quiet when it comes.
Is he competing? What's he?
We don't know.
I thought he was done.
Yeah, we don't know. So, but he is competing in the open, and he did really well. Top 50 finish right there at Yellow Hosta, ahead of Jason Hopper, ahead of someone like Bailey Martin. So, it'd be interesting to see what he does.
Do I keep him in the worldwide rankings? I think I got to, right?
I guess you would have to.
Okay.
So
he's in.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone that you want to hit on? Maybe outside of the top 50? I mean,
guys that are the guys that you would maybe be like, oh wow. Similarly to what we talked about with Katrin, like if there's guys that maybe didn't do as well in the open as you would like to see them do.
Well,
not too worried about that. Especially for the elite individuals, they got a little bit of time here before. He still did quite well, top 100.
He did. I was about to pull that up, top 100. And if you look at his open finishes,
there's been years where he's doubled down a little bit when it mattered a little bit more. But yeah, he's got a spattering of finishes in the open throughout his career.
Yeah. And he's another one where I thought, for that open workout that he did 24.1, he finished 497th in the world. I still thought it was an impressive what he did to finish, 643.
Yeah, there were other games athletes with very similar times to that. Yeah, I mean, the open is fun. You see a lot of familiar names. You'll see some new names. You'll see some names that do well in the open that won't really pop up anywhere else and do very well. It's only 3 workouts. It can tell a big story, but sometimes it can be a misleading one depending on who you're talking about. And like I said, we have 4 or 5 weeks until the individual quarterfinals, and that weekend, my gosh, dude, I'm not envious of these. All right, what are you doing, bro?
I was
go to my profile real quick because I haven't even looked at this yet. Okay. I want to say this is the worst open I've had since 2015 or something like that. 62,000, 33,000, 19, 12,000. Keep going down. Oh, 18,000, 31,000, 30,000, 33, 41, 46. Oh my, it's the worst one I've ever had in my life. There we go. That's what living out of hotels will do for you.
Hey, but you are the 13th fittest male at CrossFit Charlotte. Just saying.
Let's go. Hey, you know what? 11 years doing the open. I've done all of the workouts RX. I think it's 47 total open weeks that I've done now. I think I've did the math right there. Maybe missed by 1 or something, but every week is a challenge. I would say this year brought different challenges than any other year, but it's okay. Like Audrey said, I think about this lifestyle, this methodology beyond just the sport. It's about being consistent over a long period of time with the choices you make in and out of the gym. And I feel like, despite the way that my life has changed the last year, I've still been able to kind of, maintain many of those things, even if it's at a less frequency or intensity, because of the habits that I've built up over the last decade. So proud of the effort, and not so concerned with the performance. It was so bad that I didn't make the quarterfinals, so I don't even have to waste $50 on that. I can still do all the workouts, it turns out, and I probably will try to do them, or some version of them that I'll probably do. I'll do them if I can, as prescribed. Otherwise, I'll modify them to try to get a similar
same stimulus
rather than, just to get as far as I can or something like that.
Yeah. Well, one thing that was keeping you together while you're on those road trips, and even when you got back home, is of course HCR CBD. Your trusty old relief stick. So, as you see, Brian's wearing the shirt, always repping Carl and his amazing company, and use friend 20 for 20% off HCR CBD products on everything they have on their website. They're big supporters of us, so we appreciate if you support them as well. There was some questions. I think I wanted to pull up some of them. If I can pull these up.
I always love it when you do this.
What, pulling up the questions? Because you just never know when to bring up. That's what I love.
Yeah, I can't. I stopped looking at the comments during the show, so I just rely on PC to let me know if there's anything relevant over there. But I like the questions. I do like the questions.
Yeah. 1 second. Okay. So, let's see. This was for Brian and Bella, but you can answer. Do you think they should pay out for quarterfinals and not the Open, or maybe split the difference?
I don't know. It's hard to say without really knowing what the total budget is for the season. Mm-hmm. But I do like having a payout for the Open, because Definitely. it does give some significance to it. And I mean, look, we talked about it early in the show, how difficult it is to win this thing, how few people have done it. And, if you're able to have a top 5 finish in the Open, that's pretty special and significant. Now, that's not to say that it's not as special or significant if you do that in quarterfinals. And I would say that it is a little usually as you go through a season of something, the payouts increase as you go. The registration fees increase as you go. So it would make sense if the payouts would also kind of mirror that. It's harder, I would say, to win the quarterfinals than the Open because the workouts are more difficult. There's more on the line, so you're probably getting a higher level of effort from a majority of the athletes. Some people would say, no, it's harder to win the Open. There's more people. And I would push back on that for the reasons I just said. So I think in a perfect world, you would see an escalating scale of payouts where is something at every stage of the season that's increasing. I always say this about the semifinals, at least Europe and North America East and North America West. I think that at the very worst, those are competitions 5, 6, and 7 in terms of most difficult to win in a calendar year. And that's if you're going to say the games, Rogue, Wadapalooza, and Dubai maybe are more challenging to win outright than any of those, because you have some of the best from those different semifinals competing at those different competitions. But they're so hard to win. And then to take home less money than the winner of the Open, I would say is kind of silly. It seems kind of ridiculous to me. So, but again, I don't see the total payouts for the season. I don't have the pressure of having to make those decisions. I would just say from a practicality standpoint, having payouts at each stage that are increasing relative to the difficulty makes sense on paper.
Yeah, definitely. And who knows, maybe with them increasing the 20 increasing to 25%, maybe add some additional revenue. And who knows, maybe they have some type of payout or something. Or you find a sponsor just for quarterfinals that can handle the payouts, just like they do for the games. Danny had more of an opinion, I guess, but I'll pull it up. But he also wanted to see your opinion. Any athlete in the top 100 after these 3 workouts that is in the top 10% for top end strength will qualify for the games. Agree or disagree?
So he's saying if an athlete finished in the top 100 in the world and they would be considered to be in the top 10% for 1 rep max lifting events, they should be a lock to make the games because they have a tremendous capacity for 3 workouts that didn't require a ton of strength, at least top end strength. And then they also have the capacity to lift very heavy relative to the field.
Yes.
Just as a blanket statement, I would say, yes, those are two things that you want to be exceptionally good at if you're trying to be elite at CrossFit. So I don't know how many of the athletes necessarily in the top 100 would qualify for that, but in general, the thought, I think I would agree.
Yeah, on paper, yes, but again, you're not taking into account, someone like Guy who finished top 100, but he might not make the games. So
right, and Guy may not make it for a different reason than another athlete who could also check both boxes, which might be they don't have the skill of high density legless rope climb or handstand walks with pirouettes plus over objects and freestanding handstand push-up. And if that kind of a weird random skill were to pop up, it could just immediately eliminate them from either a quarterfinal or a semifinal scenario. So
yeah. Also, shout out to Danny who appreciate it. Have to feed the kids. We'll watch later. Thanks for all the insights,
brother.
So yeah, appreciate it, Danny. And hopefully, when you watch later or download, we do have this in podcast, so you can download and listen. And for the thousands that normally download, because we average about 1,000 downloads per week. Thank you very much for that. So however you may listen to it while you're working out, driving, or whatever, we really do appreciate that. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, sorry. Things are running a little slow here. Yeah.
Just a reminder that tomorrow morning we'll have a quick interview with Danielle Brandon as a little preview to the Danielle Brandon Energy documentary that's coming out in a few days. We got a chance to sit down with her. We just asked her 5 questions based on some themes from the movie to kind of give you guys a little bit of an insight into what sort of things will be popping up there. But the documentary itself is phenomenal, and it will be free on YouTube, so you guys can watch it there. If you want a little teaser, you can watch this tomorrow morning. And then at noon tomorrow, I'll be live on here with Dallin Pepper and James Sprague, who are going to be going head-to-head in the Reps Ahead Pro Showcase 2 on March 30th down in Jacksonville, Florida at CrossFit Tailwind. So we're going to check in with them, find out what their relationship is with Reps Ahead, and kind of preview that matchup a little bit. Those two guys are always fun to hang out with, and especially when you can get them in the same room. So that's what we got going on tomorrow, and I'm still figuring it out from there.
Yeah. So sign up for notifications, subscribe, like the video if you haven't done any of that before. I mean, we're just appreciative that you guys, at one point we had 90 of you watching, so we appreciate all of you guys coming and watching us. I think when Bella left, it kind of dropped off. I don't know. I'm just assuming. Just kidding. But we appreciate it. So yeah, that kind of wraps up the Open from us. We got a lot of cool stuff planned, obviously, this week. Got some good stuff next week. We're gonna look into quarterfinals, look into some of the some other shows where we kind of break down the European field. We're going to look into Brian's power rankings after the Open and a bunch of other cool stuff. Plan on bringing some cool guests on for some friendly conversations as well. So again, shout out to Carl and HCR CBD for always supporting us in the podcast and our show. Use code FRIEND20 for 20% off HCR CBD products. I have to reorder some of the dog stuff. So, thank you, T-Bird, as always. But
one of the best. T-Bird.
Yes. That being said, again, thank you to everyone, and be friendly, our friends.